friends. It is a beautiful morning here in Maryland. Thank you for joining me. This is Saturday mornings with GunzPicks, as I am drinking a fresh roasted cup of Folgers Crystals. Hopefully, you are enjoying your day. How's it going, everybody? Mmm, delicious. All right, done with the bullshit. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. What's going on? It is Saturday mornings with GunzPicks. I am GunzPicks, aka the point guard of podcasting, the Sultan of SWAT, the dude of all dudes, the self-proclaimed CFB GOAT. And I am here with you on Saturday mornings. Listen, if you don't know the show, if you are just subscribe to the show or subscribe to the Shark Waters channel, here's what this show is. This isn't about me, it's about you. You give me the questions, I give the opinions, and I have a special guest waiting for me in the queue. But I want to talk to the people a little bit before we get there. As Bob Candyman, the Candyman Can joins me. Let's go with the show. Football guy, always my guy. Fantastic. Got projector hooked up outside. Let's go, baby, baby, baby. I'm gonna give him one of these. We have a full college football slate. I got 3 plays for you, and of course, the cup of coffee parlay. But I want to make sure I have my very special guest. I don't want him waiting too long. He is on time restriction, of course. And I had to start the show a little bit late because I had to make the cup of coffee parlay. But I want to make sure I properly introduce this guy. You can see him all over wagertalk.com. He is my guy. We actually had an exceptional time in March Madness, and we are planning another trip in Boston in December, and I want to make sure I get him. Brian Power, what's going on, my friend? How you doing?
Guns, man. You really an incredible intro there. You really threw me off, though. You always struck me as the kind of guy who'd be like Chris Farley in that SNL sketch when he's told that it wasn't Folgers Crystals, and he just explodes and beats the dog shit out of the waiter. You know?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Now you got that in my
what? You son of a bitch! Yeah.
Dude, I miss Chris Farley is just like a lot of people said he wasn't funny. I was like, come on.
Who said that?
Like, I mean, yeah.
Give me an address. Give me an address. Give me an address of those.
Hold
people.
on. I will text you after the show and I'll give you names.
Awesome.
We may have to go Tony Soprano on some of these guys. But listen, welcome to the show. This is Saturday mornings with GunzPicks. I gave you a little bit of an intro in this one, but like tell the people where they can find you. And also I hear there is a top play that you have in the NFL.
Yeah, thanks, Guns, for having me, of course. WagerTalk.com is the only place to find me now. I've been around since 2011, but became exclusive to WagerTalk last year. And yeah, while we're talking college football today, and I'm very excited about this card, I got a 5-play card that people can get right now if you act in the next 90 minutes. But the big one this weekend, Guns, is in the NFL, where I hit 67% the first 3 weeks, my first 5% play, and it's just $2. So if you're someone who's never bought picks before, never tried me before, it's only $2 to get what is my top play of the NFL season so far. That goes, of course, Sunday. And it's been out since Tuesday, and the anticipation, quite frankly, Guns, is killing me as I've had to wait now 5 days,
listen,
for that game.
Listen, it's $2. Just go get it. It's his top play of the year. I don't want to be StuFiner.com or anything like that. It's like my top play of the year, $2. Like you do one of those there. But I want to make sure I call out a lot of these guys in the chat. Clint joining us. They call me Mr. Guns. Yeah, like Mr. Anderson selling his wrestling takes on that one. Of course, Football Guy says Penn State minus 26.5 today. Is that a good bet, or what do you think about that game?
So I am known for taking ugly dogs. I would never lay that many points on the road, but I have zero interest in taking Northwestern in that spot. So I guess it would be favored or pass. I mean, that's one of those games that, like, if you were to take Northwestern, and I'm not recommending anyone does, you just, you put your bet in and then you do yard work for 3 hours and then just check the score at the end. Because it's going to be a miserable experience, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Like, if you cover, it's going to be because Penn State phones it in the fourth quarter at the back door. So, and James Franklin, to the commenter's question, and we know he likes to run up the score. So I would feel a lot more comfortable laying than taking in that early Big Ten matchup for sure.
Yeah. It seems like, it used to be, but like Fox really screwed up my life. Is like the noon games used to be when I got shit done. So I have to run all the oblos, go mow the lawn, maybe go buy some groceries, score check if I have a game, maybe. But so usually it's from 3:30 on. I'm sitting in front of my TV watching every single game. But now Fox says, like, you know what? We're gonna put the game of the week at noon. And it's like, whoa, what are you doing with my life? It's like now I have to sit there all day. I have to ignore my family and my kids. It's crazy time.
Well, just think how those poor bastards in the Pacific time zone feel because they're putting Colorado and USC on there. Or like Penn State is a new kick, but it's Colorado USC is the Fox game this week. It's what 10 local time in Boulder and 9 local time in LA.
Yeah, how do you like? I guess like if you're pre-gaming and you're tailgating, you have to start at 6 a.m. You have to be a true alcoholic to like do that, right?
Or you just stay up all night with the intention of going to bed at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
that's another way to do it.
Clint comes back in the chat. He likes Clemson. I actually asked a question. Clemson over 53 today. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that game?
It's a horrible spot for Clemson, isn't it, Guns? I mean, you're coming off an emotional loss to Florida State, where at no point in regulation were you not covering. Florida State gets the defensive touchdown. The kicker, that great story that we all heard about for 3 hours. Dabo pulls him out of grad school or whatever. Then he misses the potential game-winning kick. You lose in overtime. The Carrier Dome is not an easy place to win at. My good buddy Adam Trigger is going to be in the building. I know he likes Syracuse. Klubnik shoots himself in the foot a lot. I wouldn't want to take an over on Clemson, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think I think it's more of a lean on the under on that one. I mean, like real talk, I think Syracuse has Clemson's number year after year after year. Whatever the spread is, this is the lowest spread we have seen in a Clemson versus Syracuse game in years, maybe ever. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, this is the bad spot for Clemson, in my opinion.
Yeah, Syracuse is typically covered against Clemson because of the big numbers. I will say, and I don't have the board in front of me right now, but as of, I don't know, like 30 minutes or so ago before we started doing the show, Clemson was up to -7, which I found interesting because I thought, money would be coming in on the dog in that matchup. So I don't know if it's just public money seeing a low number or what. That kept me off the side, honestly, Guns, when I saw that the line moved in Clemson's direction. I was like, maybe somebody knows something I don't know.
Yeah, if you're specifically looking at line correlation, so last year the line was like 14 or 14.5. This year it's 7. That should tell you a little bit of a story. So you're seeing a little bit of a rise on the Syracuse side and regression on the Clemson side. Bob Candyman, the Candyman says Wager Talk needs the Shark and the Gun show. They can't afford us, kid. All right, straight up in the dome. The Candyman loves that one as well. And football guy comes in. Are you an alcoholic if you are tailgating that early, but the alcohol is in coffee? You make a good point. I would say that if it's in your coffee, it is okay. But if you're just drinking like straight Bud Weasels at 6 a.m., you may have a problem there.
Yeah.
But I brought in Brian. We're going to talk about a lot of the main games on the slate. But as most of you guys are joining me right now, if you join me now, join me later. I will play this one more time. But let's talk about what we all are here for, and it's called the Cup of Coffee Parlay. The Cup of Coffee Parlay. Let me check. Cup of Coffee Parlay, sponsored by Viva Tequila Seltzers, 4.5 ABV, 0 carbs, 0 sugar. It is a delicious drink that you need to be drinking at every single tailgate and throughout the football season. But I'm going to bring this up right now. Here's the parlay. Keeping it to 8 games on this one. Listen, I like Kentucky money line. Sorry. Got a little clam in my throat, as they say. Kentucky money line. We got Texas A&M money line. South Alabama money line. Texas A&M money line. They are going to dominate the Arkansas Razorbacks today. We have Vandy. I'm a little bit scared to take them on the money line, but I think they do cover the double-digit number versus Missouri in a look-ahead spot. I like Ole Miss money line, Air Force money line, and then of course I'm going to take Virginia Tech money line, and that is a plus 7,910 parlay. We got that 8-1 pretty much on that one. That is the Cup of Coffee parlay for today. Any thoughts on those picks there, Brian? Do you hate them, love them? What do you think?
I am in agreement with all of them except one. And it's a noon kickoff in the SEC with Kentucky and Florida. I think, and it's interesting because Kentucky opened as they're an unranked team favored over a top 25 team in Florida. Typically, when you see that, the unranked team, the odds makers are telling you something. Even if it's at home, the unranked team's favored. But man, I think Florida might be better than people give them credit for, particularly Graham Mertz. I know Graham Mertz is much maligned.
Yeah.
But he's completing over 70% of his passes. So yeah, that. But other than that, I'm in complete agreement. South Alabama, that's one that I looked at right away against James Madison. I think James Madison has very little left in the tank after 3 one-score road games. Love Air Force out in the Mountain West. I think they're the best team in the Mountain West this year. Ole Miss should not be an underdog to LSU. And yes, Vandy, who is the only 0-5 ATS team in the country. I mean, come on, Guns. What are they not going to cover every game? They got to cover one of them, buddy. So yeah, I'm with you on that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I heard you guys. I actually watched you with Mark, and I've been calling him Zeno forever, and I realized that I've been mispronouncing his name. It's Zeno.
It is.
And I'm punching my steering wheel that he never corrected me every time he's been on a show with me. But you guys were talking about that Vandy and Missouri game, and I wanted to punch my steering wheel for that one because you were really shading Vandy. But I think basically this pick. And I talked about it last night. It's very scenario based, and it's more me willing the fact that I want Missouri to be flat. I kind of want LSU. They can win or lose, in my opinion, but I think there is a perfect spot from a bettor's perspective to look at the line when the Missouri and LSU game comes out. Missouri at home is very dangerous, and this team is very different from years past, and I think it's an exceptional spot, as well as looking at the Red River rivalry next week with Oklahoma and Texas. But we will be talking about the games here today. But I want to start with the first game just from a talking perspective as I pull up my sheet here. But let's bring up the first pick on this one. South Alabama and JMU on this spot here. And listen, I'm going to be on South Alabama, and there's probably going to be alignment here with Brian Power on this one. Listen, South Alabama coming off a loss to Central Michigan in a revenge spot, by the way, 34-30 as 16.5-point favorites. Despite winning the net yardage battle, they were plus 50 net yards in that spot. But listen, it was highly motivated more on the Central Michigan side than it was on the South Alabama side. That's more predicated on the fact that the emotions were a little bit different. Now you look at JMU coming off that close loss versus Utah State, 45-30. Actually close win. I'm sorry, 45-38. Putting up 512 yards of total offense plus 12 net yards for the game. To take advantage of JMU, you need to be able to pass the ball. They gave up 315 yards per game in the passing to their opponent, and they've only done that versus what I consider remedial competition: UVA, Troy, and Utah State. South Alabama likes to run the ball. They can pass the ball. Damian Webb, absolute dog, 6.5 yards per carry this season. And of course, Carter Bradley passing the ball with 69.7% pass completion rate, 8.6 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns, 3 INTs. Now you look at South Alabama, they face a stronger schedule as well. They had to face Tulane and Oklahoma State. They actually won Oklahoma State outright. So they played some stronger opponents than JMU, or JMU has only faced Bucknell, UVA, Troy, and Utah State. Mentioned those three teams earlier. This is JMU's first home game since week 1 versus where they had to face an FCS opponent. Now they have to face a bigger opponent in this spot. I think going 3 games in a row on the road, gassed as hell. Now they have to go home and then play an opponent like South Alabama. This is a very bad spot for JMU. And I think South Alabama coming off a loss as a double-digit favorite. I think they're going to get right in this spot on the road versus JMU. And I'm going to be on South Alabama, the Jaguars here. I got them at plus 2.5. You can sprinkle that on the money line, 2-unit special. What do you think about that one, Brian?
Yeah, money came in on South Alabama very early in the week. And it's for, I think, a lot of the reasons that you just laid out there, Guns. James Madison, a lot of people were saying, oh, they're going to be so happy to be back home after 3 straight on the road. I'm with you. I think there's got to be little left in the tank after 3 one-score games against, again, like you said, not that great competition. They have not beaten an FBS opponent this year by more than 7 points. They blew a huge lead against Utah State last week, needed a touchdown with 6 minutes to get the win. They only beat Virginia, lowly Virginia, by 1 on the road, and they could have lost that game. So 2 of their 3 wins, JMU, are by a total of 3 points. So if you're thinking, do I just do this money line? Do I take the points? Taking the points with South Alabama is the way to go. Let's talk about the South Alabama side. You mentioned they lose outright as double-digit favorites last week to Central Michigan. Right. I don't know how much people here on the show are into nerdy stats, but Bill Connolly does a great job with post-game win expectancy, okay? South Alabama last week had the highest post-game win expectancy of any team that lost. He said that they should have won that game about 85% of the time. They blow an early 14-0 lead. They give up the game losing touchdown in the final minute. South Alabama, remember last year, Guns, 10-3. They returned 18 starters. They had a lot of hype coming into the year. The bloom kind of fell off the rose with that loss to Tulane. But you talked about the win over Oklahoma State. They didn't just go to Stillwater and win. They annihilated Oklahoma State. They were up 23-0 at the half. So this team could go on the road and win. There's a lot of interesting lines this week where you've got unbeaten teams at home. Money's come against them, and they're basically pick'ems now.
Yeah.
Florida, Kentucky's a similar deal. I would be with you, South Alabama, on this one.
Yeah, listen, I thought it was a little bit weird when you actually look at the future on the win total for them. I think they were set at like 7.5 or 8. Well, a team that won 10 games, but when you actually look at their schedule last year, very, very soft, where they had a little bit more higher strength of schedule, which kind of predicated the fact that the books were like, listen, we have to drop the win total on this South Alabama team. However, they've actually performed exceptionally well. Got caught sleeping with Central Michigan, but I think they're going to get right in the spot versus JMU, who, as you just said, played some very tight, aggressive road games, sneaking out victories. They're going to be gassed on this one. As we go back to the chat, I want to call out football guy on this one. Missouri kicker might be money from midfield. That he reminds me of was it Janikowski? Just like a big fat kicker.
Seabass.
Yeah, Seabass with those thick thighs, just pulling up 62-yard bangers.
Burning heaters on the sideline.
Justin McIvy, he was there last night with me, hanging out. Yes, sir. Just pulled up. Ross, it's in the chat, says, I like Georgia. I like Bama. I like UNLV. I like USF against Navy. Any thoughts on any of those picks that Ross picks just gave, or what?
I am perplexed, Guns, over the way this line has moved for Georgia Auburn, because it certainly looks like money's coming in on Auburn, and I guess that's because Georgia hasn't covered a spread yet. But this does have the makings of a get right game for the Dogs. I think if they don't cover today, Georgia, I think we do maybe start sounding the alarm bells. But here's the deal. Auburn in the last 6 meetings with Georgia has scored 57 points total. That's less than 10 per game. And you look at the just pathetic passing attack they've had with Peyton Thorne against FBS foes this year. I don't think Auburn's going to get to 14 here. Unless if they have just a Herculean defensive effort, I don't know how they cover this spread.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on this one. I don't have any true opinions on this one. This was like a complete pass on this one. This is more of a wait and see. But yeah, Georgia hasn't covered a spread all season. They've been very vanilla, I would say, as far as their play calling. But then again, they're trying to transition to Beck. The new quarterback on this one, Stetson Bennett's gone. So I don't know how good this team is. I know defensively they're exceptional. Offensively, I haven't seen them tested yet. I need to see a bigger sample size with Georgia before I ever make a play with them in this year. Bob the Candy Man wants to talk about USC and Colorado. Any thoughts on that game?
USC is going to put up a lot of points.
And I was going to say the over. I was like, let's do that.
What an incredible thing that people turn on a show so somebody says USC is going to score a lot of points. I don't think you needed to put on the World Wide Web to figure that out. So Deion's kid's out at safety. I mean, Colorado's defense is really bad. I don't want to lay it with USC because their defense isn't good either. I did not have the stones last week, Guns, to take Arizona State. even though if you could get 35 points at home in a conference game, that's absurd. But if
Yeah.
you had seen what Arizona State had done the previous week against Fresno State, shut out at home for the first time since 1988. They were down to their fourth string quarterback, turned it over 8 times. I'm like, I can't justify putting this out. I can't tell people to put their hard-earned money on Arizona State in this spot. Yet what happened? Arizona State was in the game against USC. So the over is probably the squarest call of the day, but it's not wrong.
It's not yet correct. It's okay to be square a little bit in college football because there's so many games to bet on this one. But the right take is actually a football guy might have the right take on this one as I'm trying to scroll. Okay. Maybe the team total
exactly.
over 47
I
and
was
a half.
just going to say that. Yes,
Yeah.
I was just going to say that.
Because the one thing that USC is going to do is they're going to put up points similar to what Oregon did last week, except for probably at a higher caliber. And then you look at the USC defense. What do they do well? They get to you as far as the pass rush. They can get to the quarterback and get sacks, which is a problem for Colorado. And they're opportunistic as far as getting turnovers, whether it be by the fumble or it be by interception. They're going to give up the yaks. They're going to give up the yards. They will give up the scores, but you have to keep up with them. And the difference in the game usually when you go against USC is whether or not you turn over the ball, because you can go tit for tat with them as far as offensive scoring is concerned. But if you turn over the ball, you're going to lose every single time with USC, because USC, quite frankly, unless you have an exceptional defense, you're not going to make stops against USC. Clint actually brings up this one, and he's trying to rip the heart out of my goddamn soul. Notre Dame -6. Is Duke worth a shot? Can I give my opinion on this one? Listen, I watched the game. I basically saw the Bush push 2.0. Granted, nobody was getting pushed. I question if who was it? Henderson. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Henderson got across that line. I didn't really see it. The ref said he did, so I will trust that. And I went outside. I told Brian before the show. I went outside in my porch and stared outside into the darkness and tried to contemplate my life of why I'm a Notre Dame fan. And this game scares me to all high heaven. Normally in those spots when you have a heartbreaking loss, I like to back the team in the next game. However, when you look at Duke beat Clemson week 1, but they've played nobody since. Maybe they're going to be coming out flat. I know this is a big game for Duke. I mean, you have college game day there. It's the primetime game. Lights are the brightest. Duke has never experienced that, in my opinion, where Notre Dame is going to play against an ACC opponent. And if you know anything about Notre Dame, they have won 29 straight versus ACC opponents. This will be number 30. It's never been done, but this is going to be the game that's going to do it. It may be a banner type of game. And everything that I've seen as far as interviews and post-game press conferences, Notre Dame's ready for this game. So I don't want to play this personally, but I think Notre Dame wins. I just don't know by how much.
Not on my card. And look, you may not want to hear it right now, Guns. Notre Dame's a good team. Okay, regardless of the result last week, I had them plus 3.5. I know that a lot of people got it plus 3. Obviously, so it was a push for some, but I didn't have to sweat out there on that last drive. My condolences to you. It was just a wretched way to lose. But it's similar. This game is exactly the same from a handicapping perspective as that Syracuse-Clemson game we mentioned at the top, right? Team off a crushing loss has to go on the road. Duke is for real. Last 10 games, they're 9-1 straight up and 8-2 against the spread. The only straight up loss was by 2 points. And remember, Elko and the Duke coaching staff, they're relatively new, but they faced Hartman last year.
Yeah.
And I believe they beat Hartman. Yeah, they did. It was 34-31.
Yes,
Duke
it was.
I
looked at it. Yeah.
But here's the difference. Hartman's got a much better supporting cast this time. And if he was able to put up 31 on this Duke defense last year, they should be able to put up some points as well. Duke did beat Clemson under the bright lights in the first game. But remember, a lot of self-inflicted wounds by Clemson in that game. That game was not as dominant as the final score suggested.
Right.
My view is Notre Dame does win, but I would not want to lay the points.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. I think this is going to be a very close game, down to the wire, who has the ball, last possession, type of feeling that I have in my gut. Going back to the chat, you guys are actually awesome. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel right now, and hit the bell so you know when we go live if you haven't already. I'm going to go with football guy on this one. He said Williams states Heisman case today with ESPN there. Listen, we're in week 5. We can't be talking Heisman until probably week 8, week 9. There's a lot of games. I think if there's a Williams Heisman game, it's not in conference. It's going to be the one they play against Notre Dame when the lights are the brightest. That's going to be the staple on this one. And listen, Williams did win the Heisman last year, right? Am I wrong on that one?
No.
Okay. Who do you know who's won back-to-back Heismans ever?
It's Archie Griffin, right?
That's it. Yeah. So, okay. Archie Griffin. That's what I mean. It's like, it doesn't happen.
Before our time.
So, yeah. They always go with somebody different. There's always another guy. I mean, he would have to do exceptional things to make it back to back. I'm not going to be, it's like, if I'm making a bet on the future, I'm not going to put Williams as my bet on this one. I'm probably going to pick someone, a little bit more on the plus side on that one. So,
and here's the thing, he would have to have an astronomical game for this to be like a Heisman state, because everybody and their mother is expecting him to put up huge
big
stats
numbers
today against Colorado. Right. I mean, if he throws for like 550 yards, which I guess he could against his Colorado defense, then maybe people are like, oh, maybe he's going to win it again. But other than that, I mean, if he throws for 400 yards and even makes like a spectacular play or two, people are going to be like, well, of course he did.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. People have they're putting Colorado on a pedestal, but when you look at them from a statistical analytical standpoint, and I've been saying it for weeks, I was like, this team is no different than Colorado State. And sure as shit, they played right down to the wire with Colorado State. I actually wanted to say, like, Colorado State, they're wearing the Buffalo uniforms, but they feel like Hawaii. It's like watching Hawaii play, right? So they score a lot of points. They have skilled players, but they're not going to play defense. It's Deion's year one. Year one, building a team that won one game last season.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take some time to build that team to what he had to clean house, and he had to basically pick up whoever is left on the transfer portal to make the team that he has right now. They're not ready yet, but maybe let's watch this team like year 2, year 3 to see if Deion can actually build that program up. Football guy comes in here. He said the head coach choke. You're absolutely correct on this one. And I wanted to say this about Freeman. When the game's on the line, when the game's close, the one thing that I hate about Freeman, and the only thing I hate about Freeman, is when there's a one possession game and there's maybe a 1 or 2 minutes, I don't think I trust that coach to make the right decisions. 2 plays made that game, and they had 10 players on the field in both of those situations. That is mistakes that you should not make. That's choking, in my opinion.
Yeah, it can't happen. And then, their last offensive drive, again, I don't want to reopen the war wounds for you, Guns, but, the last offensive drive for Notre Dame, I mean, when they didn't run the ball, they tried to, they tried the screen pass and it was incomplete and it saved Ohio State time. That just was no good. It was no good. You got to run the ball.
Ross Pitts in this one. Hey, listen, I like that play. If you have a ticket that has Bo Nix to win the Heisman, I can't hate that one at all. I think Dan Lanning has a chip on his shoulder that is bigger than any. Like he's created it himself, and I see a lot of these coaches creating their own heat and us versus them type of mentality. I mean, Ryan Day's doing that right now. He thinks everybody's against Ohio State. I'm like, listen, dude, nobody's against Ohio State ever. Okay. Unless you're playing Michigan, unless you're playing some of these big games, nobody was against you in that game. So stop it. Stop creating their own heat. And like, everybody's trying to be Deion. All right. Everybody's like, Deion is creating his own narratives every single week. And everybody thinks they have to step up to that. It's like, don't be a follower. Just every single week, have a game plan, run the game plan, and be methodical and win games. And I think Oregon is going to be a tough test for everybody in the Pac-12, maybe even further than that in the college football playoff. We will see on that one. Eric P comes in the chat. He says, Duke on the money line.
I just want to say one thing about.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about that, Guns. Last week, I don't think any single team that won, if you listen to the coaches, was shown any respect the previous 7 days. It was the most preposterous thing, like ever. Like it's that's what's got to your point in college football these days. It feels like no one has ever respected anyone. If you listen to these coaches, it's crazy.
It's so funny. All right, I want to get to some of these other games that are on the board today. Let's talk about this one coming up here. Of course, we have Texas coming up in the Red River rivalry. They're playing Kansas. Kansas, of course, last year they beat Texas, beat the snot piss out of them in Kansas as 9.5. Kansas was 9-point dogs. Now they're sitting here at what, 16, 17. A little bit of egregious line correlation. So if I'm looking at this game personally, I think this is a Texas blowout. I know, granted, Kansas brings back a lot of starters in this one, but when you saw them against Bama, I think Texas is a stronger team than people perceive. And too many people are backing Kansas in this one. What are your thoughts about this one?
Only matchup of unbeaten teams on Saturday, so it's got that going for them. I expect points. Texas, the last 3 years, even when they lost the one time to Kansas, has put up 50+ points. The total looks a little low to me in the low 60s. I talked to somebody earlier in the week. They absolutely love the over on this matchup, and I would not talk you out of it. I'm a little leery to lay it with Texas just because it's such an obvious look ahead spot with Oklahoma. If they get up big, does the coaching staff take its foot off the gas? And Kansas can score, no doubt about it. So if you take your foot off the gas, Kansas will probably easily get a backdoor touchdown.
Yeah, I think too many people get caught up in, as far as from a betting perspective, they say like, oh, this team has a look ahead. This team, I was like, yo, I'll understand like the scenario with the line. The line kind of tells a story to me. To me, when I see a line that from year 1 to year 2, and Kansas bringing back a lot of the talent that made them an exceptional team last year. Granted, this team won most of their games early on the season, then they kind of they lost 6 out of their last 7, barely making a bowl. Yeah, 7 of 8. Okay, and so when I see this, Texas beat them on the road last season. I don't think this is necessarily a look ahead for Texas. I'm kind of willing Texas to beat up Kansas today because and why I'm saying that is I want Oklahoma to be flat. I want Texas to beat up on Kansas because the Red River rivalry. You have to remember Oklahoma got beat 45-0 last year in the Red River rivalry.
49 maybe.
49. Okay. If that happens, I'm going to keep refreshing my phone on Sunday or Monday or whenever the line comes out for Oklahoma. I'm going to hammer Oklahoma because I think this is a get right spot for Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a different team this year. Venables has got those guys playing really well, but granted, they haven't played up to the competition. But there is no, if I was a coach, they have to circle this game. They probably made like doormats going into the locker room to say 49-0. You know how that works. Yeah. It's like you have to motivate your team, and I don't think I think Oklahoma is going to be exceptional in that Red River shootout rivalry, whatever you want to call it. But I'm kind of willing. Like there's 2 games I'm looking at. I want Missouri to kind of be flat, and I want Oklahoma to be flat because I want to bet on those guys next week. Very heavy.
There are people who I respect, trying to guess the line. There are people saying that line could be, especially if Oklahoma is flat and Texas looks good this week, it could be like 7 points. The line next week, Oklahoma. I'm with you. As an underdog next week, I am absolutely looking to jump on Oklahoma.
Yeah, I agree with this one. I want to answer Clint's question. This was, why didn't you want Georgia State? Listen, I am a Georgia State guy as of late, but I'm picking my spots with this team. Georgia State to me is, I want to pick them in revenge spots. This game that they have today is not a revenge spot for them. Granted, this team won 4 or 5 games last season. There's going to be many spots we're going to be taking Georgia State, and I think this is a very strong team along with Georgia Southern in that conference. But I'm taking Georgia Southern on this week, and I'm going to, pick my spots with Georgia State. I like chip on their shoulder Georgia State. I don't like them in this spot today. I'm just passing on the game. But I think it's going to be there's going to be a lot of other spots to take Georgia State. Got to shout out my guy Dabby Cab. What up, homie? Let's go, brother. Draft Ross Pitts, DraftKings has Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma plus
Okay,
5, and Texas -5. Listen, you probably don't know what the line is going to be at the end of the day. If you think it's going to be it's weird. I hate jumping on lines way too early because I feel like I'm always on the wrong side of it. I always like just saying like let's wait for the outcomes to happen and then just take the line as it is. If you want to jump on it now, go ahead. I would rather wait for the outcomes of today's games. And speaking of today's games, let's talk about this one here. LSU Ole Miss. Probably be the a main, I guess, outside of Duke and Notre Dame, this is probably one of the main games. This happens at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ole Miss coming off a loss versus their daddy, Alabama. LSU, a close win as a double-digit favorite versus Arkansas. Do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's a tough spot for the Lane Train, right? They're coming off the loss to Alabama. Now Alabama, LSU back to back. Even in the gauntlet known as the SEC, it's not often you're asked to do that. It was a tale of two halves for Ole Miss last week, Guns. They looked pretty good in the first half. They were up 7-6 going to the break in Tuscaloosa. They missed a field goal right before the break, which was an ominous sign of things to come. The defense did a great job. Alabama had like 115 total yards on its first 37 offensive snaps. Yeah. But the second half, a totally different story. Alabama outgained the Rebels by about 2 yards per play. It was a really dominant second half. I faded LSU last week with Arkansas. That was a very easy win. I thought that line was absurd, over 3 scores against Arkansas. Again, it's funny, like you were just talking about, you use the previous week's results to get some value. LSU had annihilated Mississippi State, who was the clear drag of the SEC West. Arkansas loses outright, a very misleading final against BYU. And it was just a wire-to-wire game. LSU could have lost outright to Arkansas, Guns, last week if their defense had not held had the Arkansas offense to 2 field goals when they got inside the 10. So I think the wrong team is actually favored here. Yeah. Home field advantage has usually been a big deal when LSU and Ole Miss play. Ole Miss is a good team in Oxford. I think they've won 8 of their last 10 SEC home games. They've got revenge. Last year, I played LSU. LSU was unranked and a short favorite against unbeaten number 7 Ole Miss. LSU won 45-20, and the teams kind of went in different directions from there. I think the Lane Train can get revenge here.
Yeah, it is a perfect revenge spot here for Ole Miss. LSU, I don't think they have a look ahead to Missouri, obviously, but I think this may be a little bit of a trap spot. However, if this becomes a one-possession game and it comes down to the line, I probably trust LSU over Ole Miss. Brian Kelly in one-possession games, typically he's great in those spots. We'll have to see on this one. It may be a little bit of a trap spot here for LSU coming off a big win, and Ole Miss, of course, coming off a loss to Bama. I lean on the Ole Miss side more than the LSU. Going back to the chat, Dabby's dropping his plays on this one. He likes Georgia -14, LSU -2.5, the game we just talked about, Georgia State -1, and he likes the first half on Tennessee. Sharing the plays with the chat. Make sure you share them in here, and I'll keep dropping them now. But I want to talk about the next play that I like for today. I want to talk about this one here, this Houston and Texas Tech game. This is a line correlation play for me. So when you look at Texas Tech, they come off a rough start, right? They're 1-3 straight up so far this season. But you actually look at the yardage battles on this one. They've actually won the yardage battle in 3 out of those 4 games. They're coming off a close loss versus West Virginia on the road, plus 65 net yards in that game. Houston coming off a blowout win versus an FCS opponent. Actually, no, I'm sorry, FBS opponent now in Sam Houston State, crushing them and dominating the net yardage on that one, plus 360 net yards. This is going to be a little bit of a homecoming spot too. Donovan Smith is a quarterback for Houston, who obviously transferred out when he lost the starting position to Show. So it's going to be a little bit interesting dynamic going to this game, but I like the Texas Tech side. So I broke down the 3 losses. I wanted to look at the box scores. I wanted to see how they lost. So when you look at Texas Tech, Wyoming, that was one of their losses. They were a plus 111 net yard average in that game. But they had that long stoppage. It was like 78 minutes for Lightning. They were actually up 17-0 at one point in this game. They actually were on the way to blowing out Wyoming. Then they had the stoppage, a little bit coming out flat. Wyoming comes out 20 unanswered points, and they win in double overtime. Oregon, another game. Everybody looks at that one. Oregon is an exceptional team now. Everybody knows how strong they are. Guess what? Texas Tech played toe-to-toe with that team
Yes, they did.
all the way through. Only minus 16 net yards versus them, which is it's exceptional. As you know, like, because if you actually look at the net yardage in every single one of the Oregon's games, they are dominating everybody. But what made that game was a -4 turnover ratio for Texas Tech. And of course, they were down 1 point driving down the field. They got to midfield, pick six, and that was the end of the game. And also the end of the cover, which crushed my soul.
Yeah.
I was on the other side of that.
Yeah, I had Texas Tech too. I had them too. And life sometimes goes in slow motion, Guns, when a play like that happens. I was like, because I was thinking to myself, like, please just don't do something dumb like throw a pick six. And then it happens, and then you're like, oh no. At the same time, by the way, while that was going on, I had bet against Houston. I had Rice.
Yes.
Plus the points.
So did I.
Rice jumped out to that huge 28-0 lead and blew it all.
Yeah.
And had to go overtime. I'm like, if I lose both of these games, it might be time to go and selling insurance or something like that. So, but luckily, Rice held on, and we earned a split. But yeah, I'm not playing this. I don't like either of these teams.
Yeah, that was a bad week. And then we talk about West Virginia. They were plus 65 net yards for that game. Had multiple opportunities to score points on that one. 5 opportunities versus West Virginia in West Virginia territory. But they settled for 2 field goals and 3 turnovers on down. So so that's why we look at the box score, because the score tells one story, but the box score tells another one. Now, Texas Tech likes to run the ball. Taj Brooks has actually happened in an exceptional year, 6.8 yards per carry. They're going to need him in these offensive drives. And you look at Houston. They used to be a good run defense. They're not anymore. They gave up 5.9 yards per carry to UTSA and 4.9 yards per carry to TCU. Since 2017, Houston is 0-5 straight up versus Texas Tech, losing by an average of 10.4 points per game. Last year, Houston played Texas Tech as a ranked road dog +4. They did cover barely, losing by 3. Now you see the line jump to 8.5. I like the line correlation in that one. Also, Texas Tech 4-2 against the spread as a home favorite. I just think Texas Tech is so hungry for a win. They played very, very hard versus those opponents. I just told you how strong their schedule has been so far. I think this is a get-right spot for Texas Tech, and they actually get a blowout here versus a hapless Houston team that is a shell of themselves from previous years. Give me Texas Tech here, -8.5, 2-unit special. But that is why I love the Red Raiders on that one. Going back to the chat on this one, let's talk Ross Pitts. He says Texas Tech's quarterback is out. He broke it. Wait, what? Wait, show's out? Did I miss that?
Right. Oh yeah, he is. He is, buddy. Yeah, he is.
All right. Well, the line is 8.5. That still tells me, I was like, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I don't know. I mean, that's a weird one there. I didn't realize he broke his leg last week. That is my fault on that cap.
Yeah, but
thanks, Ross Pitts.
It's a plug and play system with Texas Tech, obviously. Always has been, always will.
Yeah. Looking at it, he goes football guy on this one. He talks about Jaden Daniel, but not shows up. Is my only worry about laying on LSU. You never know with him. You never know the quarterback situation. But like I said, I always play a little bit on the situation more than I do on the cap. As long as the numbers are still even, I always like to go with a team that wants it a little bit more than the other team. All right, so let's go into some of these other plays that are going on the board. We talked about Notre Dame and Duke. I want to talk about this one. We haven't talked about Iowa State and Oklahoma on this one. This game is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Listen, Iowa State typically plays very close with Oklahoma. However, the number was 1.5 last year. This number has jumped through the rafters in year 2. Obviously, a lot of changes going on with Iowa State. Matt Campbell, is he going to be the coach next year? We will see. Any thoughts on this one, Brian?
Yeah, I think this is a flat spot for Oklahoma. We talked about it. We kind of want it to be a flat spot for Oklahoma for betting purposes next week in the Red River rivalry. You talk about Iowa State and their history of playing Oklahoma tough. You're talking 8 straight meetings decided by 14 points or less, 6 of those by 1 possession. Campbell's great as an underdog of 17 or more. Oklahoma has not been good the week before facing Texas as a home favorite. The week before facing Texas, they're 4-13 against the spread. So there has been a look ahead when it comes to the Sooners. Also, OU, they have 2 kind of ho-hum victories against SMU and Cincinnati that really weren't that. SMU was within 3 in the fourth
Yeah.
quarter against Oklahoma. And then last week, Cincinnati's missing its best defender, and Oklahoma only put up 20 points. I know it was a road game. Iowa State's offense showed up last week. They took a different approach. I know it was Oklahoma State, who's not very good. But Becht, who was put in a tough spot when the starting quarterback gets suspended for gambling to start the year. Becht had his best game. And, Iowa State should have beaten my alma mater, Ohio, a couple weeks ago. They had another tough loss against rival Iowa. I think Iowa State's a little bit better than they're given credit for. I would look to take the points in this game.
Yeah, I think there's just too many points on this one. I lean on the Iowa State side on this one. I think that out of those, listen, somebody's going to have a flat spot in this one. Is it Oklahoma or is it Texas? I think it's more on the Oklahoma side than it is the Texas side. And I'm maybe there's a little bit of me like personally like wanting Oklahoma to be flat on this one because I want them to be thinking about Texas, not this game at all. And I think if you're taking a side on this one, you have to be taking the Iowa State side. I know the line shift from year 1 to year 2 is a little bit different and very egregious, but I think it's overinflated here with on the Iowa State side. They don't trust them, and I think the public is going to be jumping on Oklahoma, especially what they've done with their competition so far. And then I want to make sure I call it likes. Hit the like button on this one. God damn it. This is why I do this show. I spend my time. I give you the information. I bring in guys like Brian Power from Wager Talk. So that's all I need. I give you this information is for the total cost of $0. That's all I ask. Hit the like and subscribe to the channel. But for those guys that missed it earlier today, or actually earlier into the show, I want to make sure that people got the beautiful cup of coffee. Yeah, freshly brewed, coming out and hot with a little bit of cream and 2 sugars. We're going to give you the cup of coffee parlay on this one. Listen, I like Kentucky money line. Granted, it's the only play that Brian Power doesn't like on this parlay, but that is why we have multiple opinions on this show. Texas A&M money line, South Alabama money line, Texas A&M money line, Vandy plus 14 because I'm too much of a pussy to take them on the money line. Miss money line, Ole Miss money line, Air Force money line, and Virginia Tech money line. You can get that at 8-1, and I got it on FanDuel this morning. But go check your books, get your best price, and shop around on that. Whoa! What a show, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure I properly before we close this thing out. You can go find Brian on wagertalk.com. Listen, he has a Power 5. He's on the Hustle podcast. He's everywhere across the internet. But I want to make sure that we give Brian the proper promotion on this one. I'll give it to you. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, wagertalk.com is the only place you can find me. You laid out all the podcasts. Yep, part of the Hustle. I do a Power 5 show every day on the Wager Talks YouTube channel. They can check it out, Monday through Friday. They're always up. And, NFL. It's going to be a big day tomorrow. It's going to be a big day at college. Just go to wagertalk.com, Brian Power. You'll see this face, and that's the place to go.
Hell yeah, man. And thanks all you beautiful bastards joining me this morning. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And make sure you share it with all your friends, your mothers, your sisters, your brothers, and everybody else going on there. Listen, I gave you the cup of coffee parlay. There's one play I didn't really talk about in this one. I do like Air Force today, double-digit favorite. It's a line correlation play. I also gave you Texas Tech minus 8.5. I don't care who the quarterback is on that one. And then we're talking about South Alabama here, plus 2.5. Those are the 3 added plays as well as the plays that I gave you last night. I gave you 6 backup plays. So 9 plays total. Let's see if we can dominate the board. Let's crush the books today, as we always do. Make sure you check us out tomorrow, Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Circa Million show. I'll give you all my Circa Millions picks and maybe a little bit extra on top of that. Tough card this week for the NFL, but listen, we started it off right. We took Detroit, hit that one easily, and we're going to continue that momentum into today. Listen, we're on a nice little run here with college football and NFL, so make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and join us all day. Ross Pitt says, "Go Ravens." That might be one of my picks you will have to see on Sunday. Thanks for everybody joining. Let's have ourselves a day. Let's dominate the board. And as always, let's keep dancing. Bang.